Let's move on to New Age deception number 2, which goes hand in hand with the first of never look at the negative, and that's never get angry. Never get angry. There's nothing to get angry about. Everything is fine. Let's talk in these calm, soothing tones. Oh, the world is fine the way it is. There's nothing wrong. Don't get angry. Don't raise your voice. Never feel any negative emotions. Anger is negative. It shouldn't exist. There's no reason for anger to exist. There's no proper role for anger. I mean, people actually believe this nonsense. This is just total tripe. I just can't even believe people are that naive that they believe that there's no proper role for anger. If you couldn't experience, if anger were not there to be experienced, you wouldn't be able to feel it. There's a reason, there's a role for it. There's a proper role for all the emotions. All the emotions. Anger is there for a reason. I put on the slide, Never Get Angry, my favorite comic book character, my favorite superhero, if you will. I never preferred the other superheroes who dress in costumes and, necessarily look at themselves as quote-unquote defenders of the people, like Superman and Batman. Spider-Man I thought was pretty cool when I was young, but by far, the only character I ever identified with in my youth was the Incredible Hulk. If there is one comic book that I, got into and thought that character was the man, it was the Incredible Hulk. And there's a reason. And there's a reason he's green. That's not an accident either. The Hulk was someone who wanted to be left alone. That's all the Hulk ever wanted. Bruce Banner didn't hurt anybody. Who would transform into the Incredible Hulk when other people refused to leave him alone. You could even watch the TV series, The Incredible Hulk, with Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk. The same concept arises there over and over again. This person wants to be left alone. He wants to be allowed to live his life in peace. And he constantly encounters people who won't allow that. And he tells them, don't make me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry. Because all he's doing is acting in a defensive posture. He's going on the attack only when he's been forced into a corner. And then he flips out, and people don't like what happens when he flips out. And I would suggest this is where America is right now. We are Bruce Banner on the verge of transformation into the Incredible Hulk. And let me tell you something. When the transformation happens, the people who have pushed us into this corner are not going to like the Americans when they're angry. And I would suggest to them to go study the French Revolution in detail. Because if you think what happened in the French Revolution was bloody and violent, you have not seen anything compared to what is going to happen on American soil. If people do not allow this control system of violence and slavery to deteriorate naturally and organically on its own. You're going to be people are going to be wishing that the Incredible Hulk was tearing things up, because what they're going to witness is going to be something so far beyond that it's the likes of which humanity has never seen in history ever. And that's what I am again attempting to avoid. I'm not trying to push that dynamic. I am trying to avert that dynamic by teaching people the difference between right and wrong and helping them to accept that they have been duped and they have been wrong their whole life. That they are under mind control and need to heal their hemispheres of their brain in conjunction with the heart to get out of that level of mind control and therefore stop supporting evil and slavery. So, I intuitively resonated with the character of the Hulk because, as they say, there are only two kinds of people. The people who want to be left alone and the people who won't leave them alone. That's it. There are aggressors and there are people who understand the non-aggression principle and that you shouldn't initiate violence and coercion. There are the only two kinds of people in the world. That's it. And then there are people who think that the initiation of violence and coercion are acceptable when they are immoral. So the Hulk never initiated force, ever. He responded to it defensively when he was pushed to the edge. Which is why I intuitively resonated with that character. And the fact that he's colored green when he transforms is no accident either. Because that's the color of care. That's the color of balance. And understanding when forceful defensive action needs to be taken. When we care enough, when we come into a level of balance enough. Now, he goes obviously way out of balance when he makes this transformation, but the concept here is that the green color is representative of caring enough to get angry enough to take right action. Even if that action has to be based in defensive force, which we're going to talk about later in the presentation. On slide number 33, this is what they would turn the masculine instinct into of self-preservation and defense when your rights are being attacked, when your life is being attacked. This is what the New Age movement seeks to turn it into. Somebody who is totally emasculated and is sitting there doing nothing, accepting. See, it's all about acceptance, which is right-brained. It's never about action. This is a theme that you'll see over and over and over and over again in the New Age movement. Always accept, never act. Think and feel, maybe think, definitely feel. Emotions are played heavily upon because that's right brain in balance. The limbic system rules, so you become governed by the emotions. You're not really truly thinking at a higher order, at a higher function with the neocortex, and you're certainly not taking action. So this takes away the instinct for self-preservation and the preservation of one's rights, making you a willing slave that will sit there when violence is being done to you. And I would suggest this is what protests are all about too. People sitting there when violence is being done to them, not acting back. It's also a testimony, though, to how far people are willing to let themselves be pushed because they don't want forceful confrontation. But at some point when you're being beaten with weapons and weapons of war are being unleashed upon you and you're sitting there doing nothing, you're engaged in a wrongdoing. And I would suggest to you that the original founders of this country waged the first Revolutionary War for far less than what's going on today. The police abuses and brutality are even less than what the founders said was the straw that broke the camel's back and it led to Lexington and Concord. I would suggest we are under deeper oppression, far worse oppression now, through the kinds of taxation that are going on, through the kinds of prohibition that's going on, through the kinds of usurpation of rights and free speech and police brutality and the complete and utter immoral uses of the military in this country. This country is a moral disgrace. A disgrace. There is no grace here. The grace of the Creator is gone from this country because we abandon His law, its law, that force's law, whatever you want to call it, her law. We're not living according to the laws of the Creator. We're not living according to morality. We don't know the first thing about morality in this country, and that's why we're going and are already in the cage. So, to tell people that you need to become some milquetoast, roll over when he's kicked dog that takes whatever abuse that is dished out to him by people who think that they're your owners is total bullshit. So let's correct this New Age deception number 2. and understand what is the real role of anger. How is anger properly used? New Age correction number 2 on slide number 35 now. I have a picture of a bully or a fight happening in a school environment in front of lockers. While non-righteous and unchallenged anger, and we see so much of that in our youth, anger is present, but it's not properly channeled. This is more of what they want. They want people angry, but not angry over the right reasons. Angry because, you started this rumor about me. Infighting. Anger about, I have a different political ideology or a different religion than you. Angry because I don't like the way you look or how you talk or whatever. People aren't angry over the right reasons. They're angry over nonsense. Over things that make absolutely no sense and are just there to divide people. So while non-righteous anger and unchanneled anger is counterproductive to individual development and collective efforts to bring about positive change, moving to slide 36, on the other hand, righteous anger, righteous indignation, when channeled productively, meaning you don't just get angry and hold the anger there. You get angry and then you do something with the anger. The righteous anger, is spurring you on to action in the world. Spurring you on to right action in the world. That's called righteous indignation. It means you are going to do something with that emotion. It is there to be felt, and it is there to motivate you, to move you forward, to take action. Not just to say, oh, that's terrible, that shouldn't be done, but to do something about it. To bring that knowledge and awareness to other people. When it's channeled productively, it can be a major motivation to create positive change in our world. But ignoring it and saying no one should ever get angry. Anger is an emotion that should be purged. This is what New Agers believe. I'm telling you, it's not what I think they believe. I've had in-depth conversations with people who are adherents to this religion, who have told me there is no place ever for any anger. Anger is an emotion that should not exist, and we should work to try to purge it. Someone has actually said that to me. And I just have to look at them like, you are on drugs. You are on a bad drug called the New Age movement. And you don't even understand. I'm not even saying that metaphorically. This is a drug. This is something that imbalances the brain chronically. It's like abusing a drug. One of the people who I do think may have started in the New Age movement, but he understood how it was being used as a deception, and I really like his work, is Dick Sutphin. Dick Sutphin has talked about the dangers of using a lot of these New Age techniques in a way that it shouldn't be used. We're going to talk about that when we get into meditation. But he talks about friends who are total New Agers, who their brain is like how somebody's brain is when they're on a heavy street drug. And can't focus, can't concentrate, can't get anything done. The action has been removed. Again, the suppression of the sacred masculine. The sacred masculine is action. Taking action. Thoughts are the neutral component that underlie everything. The sacred feminine is the emotional qualities, and then the sacred masculine is the actions, is our behavior. And that's what they want to ultimately cut off. They don't want people taking right action in the world, telling people about what's really going on, informing people. They want you calm, and they want you sedated, non-active, sitting there doing nothing. When you get angry, it can motivate you to proper action. And the image that I show here is a meme from the movie Network, which I highly recommend, because that's what Howard Beale in Network is talking about. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm going to do something to change this. It isn't good enough to say I disagree with it. Thought and emotion give rise to action. If they're not giving rise to action, you're not doing the proper things with your thoughts and your emotions. It's not about knowing something or feeling something. It's about knowing it, feeling it, then doing it. And again, as ancient philosophers have said, to know and not to do is not to know. If you claim to know something and you're not actually acting on that, you're not actually doing something with that knowledge, you don't really know it. You haven't really deeply integrated it. You don't know. You're just saying that you know. And that's what so many people in the New Age movement are. People who say that they know, they don't do, and therefore they don't really know. More on this correction about never get angry. You know, the whole statement, the meme, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. It's very applicable. If you're not outraged by what's going on in the world, you clearly cannot be paying attention to what's going on in the world. Because what's going on in the world is very negative, and it should not stand. It should not be continuing. I told people at the conference, even Jesus got angry in the story. And this is, again, whether you accept it as some sort of a historical account, I don't care. Or if you accept it as pure metaphor. The point here is, he was teaching how to properly interact with people in the world in a non-violent way. But when people were robbing people, which is what the temple money changers were doing, they were defrauding people by creating a monopoly like the Federal Reserve and defrauding people of their savings and earnings by charging them inordinate amounts of money on temple coins so that they were cleaning up at the expense of everybody else around them because they just didn't give a shit about anybody but themselves. Well, Jesus didn't just stand there and say, oh, okay, I can't get angry about that. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to point this out. I'm not going to make a big, confrontation over this. No, he didn't say that. He recognized wrongdoing when it was happening, and he took out the switch and whipped their asses. Because they had no right to do what they were doing. They were morally wrong and should be put in their place. Not put up on a pedestal and say you're the untouchables and nothing can happen to you as a result of your fraud, your theft, your lies. It's the same thing going on today, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why that's what it's about. It's a metaphor for the human condition, what's still going on. It's not meant to be taken as a literal, single, individual, anecdotal story or historical account. It's a metaphor. You need to understand the in-depth underlying message that is presented in the fable or the allegory. But no, we want to stay in the babyfied literalism variant of the Bible. Yeah, good luck with that. It's called being a moron and wanting to stay one. You know, because I'm going to take everything totally literally and never really understand the actual concept or the meaning.